Welcome back to Anime Recap Library, your ultimate source for deep dive anime recaps and story breakdowns. In this video, we continue the fascinating journey of Maomao in Season 1, Episodes 13 through 24 of Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, also known as The Apothecary Diaries. After the suspenseful events of the first half of the season, Maomao finds herself pulled deeper into the political webs and dangerous secrets of the imperial palace. From uncovering hidden illnesses and deadly poisons to facing complex human emotions and moral dilemmas, Maomao's brilliance is put to the test like never before. We'll explore new revelations about her past, her growing bond with Jinshi, and the shadowy truths behind the lives of courtesans, nobility, and even royalty. So, whether you're catching up or refreshing your memory, this detailed recap will walk you through every critical moment, key mystery, and character development from Episode 13 all the way to the Season 1 finale. Let's dive into the world of imperial intrigue, hidden agendas, and medical brilliance. This is the Apothecary Diaries, Episodes 13 to 24. If you here for first time, watch our Season 1 Part 1 recap before you start watching this video. Maomao's new journey begins when she packs her belongings at her sister's house, then goes to her father's to spend the night with him before leaving. The next morning, Jinshi arrives with his assistant, Gaoshun, to pick up Maomao, who looks absolutely beautiful in all her makeup. They set off on their return journey, amazed by Maomao's beauty. When they arrive at Lord Jinshi's house, Maomao is surprised. She wasn't going to Lady Gyokuyu's mansion as she had thought. Jinshi tells her that she will be living in his house. Gaoshun explains that this area is separate from the royal harem and is known as the Outer Palace, where imperial affairs are managed. They enter Jinshi's mansion, and Maomao meets the headmaid, Siren, who gives her a tour of the premises. They then go to the reception room, where Jinshi explains to Maomao that she will be working as a court lady, serving as his personal secretary, and that she must study for the entrance exam. Maomao begins the next day by getting ready and doing the housework, but Serene has already finished. Maomao then goes with Gaoshun outside to explore the outer palace area. Upon returning, Serene asks her to take the coal to Jinshi's office, but upon exiting, Maomao sees a group of court ladies watching her. They approach her, enviously asking, "How could Lord Jinshi accept an ugly girl like you as his lady of the court?" Maomao replies sarcastically, "Are you jealous of me?" One of them hits her. Maomao realizes that she has provoked them with her response and that she should avoid contact to avoid trouble. She explains to them, "How could someone like Jinshi, with his beauty and status, take a fancy to an ugly girl like me? Is that how you think of him? Why would he leave a group of beautiful girls and choose me?" One of them, sensing Maomao's malice, steps forward and asks, "Then why did he bring you here?" Maomao, after revealing the hand she had been using as a testing area for her strange medicines, replies, "That's why. Master Jinshi took me in because he felt sorry for me and wanted to give me a job so I could pay for my treatment." The girls leave, shocked by what they've seen. Meanwhile, Jinshi and his assistant, Gaoshun, watch in amazement. How did Maomao get rid of them with her deceptive story? They ask her to seek help if she's ever harassed again. The next day, the results of the entrance exams are out. But Maomao doesn't pass. Everyone knows she deliberately failed so she wouldn't become Jinshi's secretary, as that would restrict her. However, in his usual move, Jinshi uses his connections to appoint her as a court lady and his personal secretary. Maomao is planting some medicinal plants, as they are less common in the outer palace than in the concubine's back palace. Then Serene comes and asks her to clean Jinshi's office, as she told her in the morning. She enters the office to find Jinshi and Gaoshun in a state of turmoil. Jinshi asks, "Did you hear about the arrival of the new fourth concubine?" She replies, "Yes, she's Lady Ado's replacement, and I heard about it." He tells her that the palace has requested an educational lecture for her and that Maomao should go and do it. Maomao is surprised by her choice. Why me? Jinshi explains that it was concubines Gyukyu and Riva who recommended Maomao as the teacher. Maomao asks the old lady to bring her a set of books and notes to help her. Maomao sets off with Jinshi and Gaoshun to the back palace, even refusing any help pulling the carriage. She's enjoying it. When they arrive, all the maids gather for the lesson, but Jinshi politely asks them to leave, as this class is only for high-ranking concubines. Upon entering, Maomao asks Jinshi to leave as well. She tells him, "This is a class for women only, for high-ranking concubines, as you said earlier." Then she pushes him out. Teacher Maomao introduces herself, hands out books to everyone, and begins explaining, but looks of shame fill their faces at what's written in the books and what they hear from the bold teacher Maomao, who worked so hard to explain every detail, without reservation. After the lesson is over, Maomao comes out to find Jinshi eagerly waiting to hear what happened. He asks her, "Why did you take so long?" Then he enters to see her expressions of satisfaction, surprise, and even shock. Maomao tells him that she did as she was told and feels satisfied, because at least she made the person who recommended her for this task happy. The story shifts back to Maomao, who was getting ready for bed, and suddenly she hears an explosion and the commotion of soldiers outside. But remembering Lady Siren's strictness, she simply decides to go back to sleep. The scene then shifts to the explosion site, where a new character appears, the genius strategist Lacan. The next day, Maomao is collecting unused papers in Genshi's office to shred them when she sees Officer Lihaku near a plant she found by chance. She goes to greet him, and they discuss why she's there. She asks him, "Do you work here?" He replies, "I'm responsible for the warehouse explosion that happened yesterday." Curiosity begins to creep in. She approaches the site, searching for information or clues, trying to analyze what happened, especially after Lihaku tells her that the cause of the explosion is still unknown. Lihaku tries to get her out of the scene, but after connecting the clues, she runs to another warehouse. She confirms that it's an exact match for the one where the explosion occurred. She asks for some of the materials lying around. He asks her in surprise, "What are you trying to make?" She replies, "It's just a quick experiment." Lihaku agrees and orders the soldier to help her. Maomao begins her experiment. She makes a wooden box, puts some flour inside, closes it, lights a fuse, and tells them to move away. But Lihaku refuses. He wants to see for himself what happens. Then suddenly, a small explosion. It sets his hat on fire. After the fire is extinguished, he asks her, "What happened? What caused the explosion?" Maomao explains, "The flour is to blame. I found a pipe in the burned-out warehouse. Probably one of the soldiers was trying to sneak a smoke. When he entered the warehouse, the air stirred the flour particles, and the pipe lit them. The warehouse was a bomb ready to explode. It just needed a spark. She advises him to instruct the warehouse keepers not to smoke inside. Lihaku is surprised by Maomao's intelligence and cleverness. Then she asks permission to leave. The next morning, some officers were talking about their admiration for Officer Lihaku for his brilliant solution to the warehouse explosion. But what piqued their interest even more was this strange rumor. It was said that Master Jinshi's new maid had helped him, and that she was not only extremely intelligent but also beautiful. Lacan was lying in the garden, idly watching the sky, when his ears caught the sound. He suddenly sat up straight, then said with strange calm, "Tell me everything you know about her." Later, while Maomao was going about her daily business, Gaoshun came to ask for her help with a new case. It was the poisoning of a prominent figure, a man known for being a professional gourmet of the food entrusted to him, but no one had been able to determine the cause of the poisoning. Maomao was surprised by his request. Why me? Gaoshun told her that all evidence had reached a dead end, and they needed a mind like hers. Maomao read through all the information Gaoshun had gathered, then requested a visit to the kitchen where the food was prepared. She went there, accompanied by Officer Basin, with Gaoshun's official arrangement. Maomao began to meticulously search through all the ingredients and storage areas. But suddenly, an angry man entered, objecting to their presence. Basin calmly told them, "We're here to investigate, and we've obtained all the necessary approvals." Then the cook told them that this angry man was the brother of the person who had been poisoned. Despite her careful inspection, Maomao found nothing unusual, except a quantity of preserved seaweed, but out of season. She recorded her observations and then left with Basin. On the way back, Basin asked her, "Why did you finish the investigation so quickly?" She confidently replied, "I found what I wanted." In Jinshi's office, Maomao brought 2 plates of seaweed and placed them in front of Jinshi, Gaoshun, and Basin. She told them, "The 2 dishes look identical, but one was soaked in plain water, the other in lime water. The color is the only difference, but the second is poisonous seaweed." Jinshi wondered in surprise, but the man who was poisoned was a gourmet. How could he not notice the difference? Maomao replied, "This seaweed isn't found in our area. It was brought from another town. It's rare. Even gourmets wouldn't easily recognize it." Gaoshun quickly got the message. "You're saying the culprit brought this seaweed himself, right?" The next day, Gaoshun returned and told Maomao that the investigation had proven that the poisoned man's brother had brought the seaweed to the kitchen, and he had done it out of jealousy and revenge. He had suffered from family mistreatment compared to his pampered older brother. The scene shifted to Jinshi's office, where Lacan had come to visit him as usual. He sat quietly, smiling that smile that was not devoid of slyness. He said, "I heard about your maid, Jinshi. It seems she's not just a maid." He continued, "I know where she came from the brothel in the Zangarang neighborhood. I also heard that she's very intelligent." He studied Jinshi for a moment, then said, "I want to borrow her." Jinshi raised an eyebrow. "For what reason?" Lacan replied, "I have been entrusted with a case. It concerns an ancient secret technique, hidden by the first blacksmith of the empire, and I believe that Maomao is the only one capable of solving it." Jinshi asks Maomao to come and explains that he wants her help in solving a mystery left behind by the palace blacksmith, the empire's foremost supplier. He has left behind many secret techniques without revealing them to his 3 sons, his disciples. Maomao asks him, "What do I need to do to uncover the secret technique?" Jinshi tells her that the blacksmith left a will for his sons, and he wants her to analyze it, as one of them will be the next supplier after his father. Maomao asks what the will says, and Jinshi tells her that the instructions for distributing the inheritance are written in his father's will. The workshop hut is for the eldest son, high-quality furniture for the second son, and the fish tank for the youngest son. You should have a tea party together like the old days. Maomao wonders how strange the will is, and what tea party means, and says that the distribution seems unequal. Jinshi gave her the address and asked her to take a look if she was interested in solving the mystery. The next day, Maomao set out for the address, accompanied by Officer Basin, who seemed to be her constant companion. When they arrived, they were escorted to the workshop by the 3 brothers. Maomao began to investigate and discovered that the center drawer unit had been nailed down. She also noticed the odd location of the window. The eldest brother then questioned their ability to solve the mystery. Basin, after Maomao's prompting, told them to provide more information for analysis. He told them that their father hadn't left them any secret technology, but had instead given the hut to him, the drawer unit to his second brother, and the fish tank to his youngest son. The second son, however, sarcastically told them that the drawer unit had only one key, and it didn't fit the existing lock. Meanwhile, the eldest brother expressed his displeasure at having the hut, but being unable to remove the drawer unit, which had been nailed to the floor. Then the mother intervened, admonishing her sons for their childish behavior in front of the guests. She told Basin and Maomao that their father feared they would be separated after his death and always tried to bring them together. She then excused herself to leave. In a moment of silent reflection, Maomao linked everyone's seating positions to the window and wondered why the fishbowl was made of glass when it was usually made of wood or pottery. She then took a closer look at the keyhole and asked them about the key. They told her that the key had worked at first, but had stopped working after their father made some adjustments. He told them, "If you try to break the lock, the contents of the drawer will break." Maomao began analyzing the information she had obtained, and then asked the younger brother, "Is the fishbowl usually placed by the window?" He replied, "Yes. We used to put it there in the winter, during tea, because the sun kept the water warm, preventing the fish from dying from the cold." Maomao went to get water to fill the fish tank. Then the younger brother turned the drawing on the tank in the direction it usually faced, reflecting a beam of light directly into the keyhole of the drawer unit. Everyone gathered at the drawer unit. Maomao asked them to try to open the drawer with the key they had. To everyone's surprise, they pulled out a box containing another key. Maomao explained that the sun's rays served as a heat source to melt a type of metal, which melted inside another mold to form the new key. She then took the new key and opened the upper drawers. They found 3 types of metal inside. The younger brother also understood that the intention was that 2 ores, when mixed together, produced a third metal, which didn't require as high a melting temperature as the small piece of metal did to form the new key. The older brothers were upset, thinking that their father had played a prank and that they had wasted a lot of time trying to solve the puzzle. They wanted to leave, but the younger brother stopped them, telling them that this wasn't a prank. Rather, his father had left this will so that they would get along as they had before. They told him that their father cared for him because he was the more talented of the 2. The younger brother rejected what his brothers had said, telling them that his father had told him that the older brother was the most meticulous at work, never missing a single detail. The second brother was quick to recognize people, and that he treated them equally, but that each had his own role. The situation calmed down, and Basan asked them to leave with Maomao, thanking them for their help in solving the mystery. We then moved to Jinshi's office, where we saw Lacan explain that the 3 brothers were now on good terms. The older brother was handling the accounting, the second brother was trying to find new clients, and the younger brother, the more talented one, was in charge of manufacturing. They had each found their best position and would support their families in the best way possible. Jenshi asked him, "Why were you interested in the case?" He replied, "Because the younger brother was more qualified given his talent. I didn't care what the older brothers did because their father was responsible for creating many amazing things, especially metal that melts at low temperatures." Jinshi suspected this was the reason Lacan had brought him to see him. Lacan began to tell him about himself, saying that he knew the brothel where his maid, Maomao, worked. He recounted how he had reduced the price of one of the girls he had admired to 0 in order to obtain her. When Jinshi asked him, "How do you reduce the price of a famous courtesan to 0?" Lacan replied, "You should ask someone who knows." Lacan then excused himself to leave. The next day, Jinshi asks Maomao to make him look like a commoner, as he has an important meeting in a neighborhood outside the palace. Maomao makes some cosmetics and begins working on Jinshi's appearance, with the help of Gaoshun and Seren. However, when she's finished, Gaoshun asks Maomao to accompany Jinshi on his way, as she's going on vacation to visit her father for the day. Maomao tries to escape, but Gaoshun and Seren are ready. They make her look like a wealthy woman, accompanied by Jinshi, disguised as a commoner, as her servant. On their way, Jinshi gets to know the slums, and Maomao begins adjusting his behavior to match that of the commoners. Together, they enjoy eating street food. However, at the point of parting, Jinshi surprises Maomao with a strange question. How are the prices of concubines working in brothels reduced? Maomao tries to compose herself, considering the sensitivity of the question, but responds with a harsh calm. Concubines' value decreases according to their chastity, by half. Then she continues, her voice trying to suppress her anger. What reduces a concubine's value to 0 is pregnancy. Jinshi is silent for a moment, and then they continue on their way to their respective destinations. The next day, Lacan visits Jinshi in his office and asks him to tell Maomao that he wants to visit her soon. Through this encounter, Jinshi learns that Maomao's real father is Lacan, and that the concubine whose value has been reduced to 0 is Maomao's mother, who was pregnant at the time. Then Lacan leaves as usual, but on his way home, Jinshi sees Maomao and stops her to tell her that someone has asked to see her. When she asks, "Who is he?" Jinshi tells her, "An eccentric person, a well-known strategist, named Lacan." He immediately continues, "I'll look for an excuse to refuse his request," seeing her angry expression, and he's thinking, "I've never seen her before, and I don't want to see her again." Maomao smiles faintly, then thanks him and continues on her way. The next day, while Maomao was cleaning the garden, Lihako came to ask for her help with something. Maomao asked, "What do you want?" He told her that ceremonial tools had been stolen from the warehouse where the fire had occurred. Maomao wondered, why were these tools of such importance placed there? Why didn't the warehouse manager notice? Lihako told her that the warehouse manager had been poisoned by eating seaweed. Maomao began to suspect that all these incidents could not be mere coincidences, and that they might be connected. She then asked, "What exactly do you want from me?" Lihako took out the pipe Maomao had found earlier in the burned warehouse, which she had cleaned and returned to him so he could find its owner and give it to him. Lihako told her that the owner of the pipe did not want it, and that he had obtained it from a court lady when he escorted her out of the palace at night. Maomao asked him, "Did you recognize her?" Lihaku replied that he had tried to gather information about her, but the court lady wore a veil covering her face, was tall, and smelled of medicinal plants. Maomao asked if she knew anyone with those characteristics. Maomao suspected someone, but she remembered her father's words. Don't make decisions based on intuition alone. Jinshi appeared curious about what they were talking about, and Lihaku quickly left. They then went to Jinshi's office where Maomao talked about the incidents that had happened, saying that even if they were coincidences, they were best investigated. Having people connected to all these incidents makes them seem deliberate and not just coincidental. Jinshi asked her if she was interested in investigating, and Maomao expressed disinterest. However, Jinshi wrote the name of a rare substance on a piece of paper and told her that he had a merchant friend who owned it, trying to get her excited. Indeed, Maomao eagerly asked, "If you analyze these incidents, will you give them to me?" Jinshi assured her, asking Gaoshun to help her. Maomao began studying the events and correlating them, concluding that all the incidents were related to the upcoming ceremony. She asked the librarian for any information related to the ceremony, and he brought her building plans and designs for the final site, explaining what was done during the ceremony. He also told her that he had previously been part of the ceremony team, but was now in charge of the archives, and was relieved that the metal supports for the wooden poles had been maintained. Maomao asked, "What do you mean?" He told her that the method of lowering the poles from the ceiling relied on a metal piece connecting the wires holding the wooden poles, and he was concerned about their durability. But when he expressed his opinion, they told him not to interfere and sent him to the archives department. Maomao looked at the plan and confirmed his statement. If this metal piece were to break, the column would fall directly onto the person performing the ceremony, posing a serious risk that could lead to their death. She wondered, if this piece is damaged, why don't they replace it? Remembering that the master blacksmith had died, she asked the librarian when the ceremony would be held. He told her that today was the day. Maomao quickly set out to stop the ceremony, learning that all these incidents were an assassination attempt on the noble person she was conducting. She arrived at the ceremony site, but the guards prevented her from entering, even when she explained the importance of stopping it. The guard refused to listen, and Maomao told him, "If something happens, you will be complicit with whoever planned this, or maybe you are one of them." This provoked him, and he struck her hard. But Maomao didn't give up and tried again, to no avail. Until her father, the brilliant strategist Lacan, appeared and told the soldier, "How dare you hit a little girl? I will be held responsible for her entry." Maomao takes advantage of the commotion and enters the building where the ceremony is being held, hoping to stop it before anything bad happens. She runs and pushes the person performing the ceremony just as the pillar falls, injuring her leg. When she looks up at the noble figure she saved, she realizes it's Jinshi. He asks her, "What are you doing here? And what happened to your face?" Maomao casually asks, "Will I get the rare substance because I solved the case?" She then loses consciousness, and Jinshi carries her to medical care in full view of everyone, his face furious, seeing only the path to the clinic to treat Maomao. Maomao woke up to find herself in Jinshi's room, having been treated for her injuries. After Seren gave her medicine, she asked her to get dressed, as everyone wanted to check on her. In the reception room, Jinshi asked her to explain what had happened. How did she know the wooden pole would fall? Maomao explained every detail, how the previous incidents, which had seemed like mere coincidences, were in fact closely linked to the ceremony, especially the iron piece that held the wooden pole together. She explained that these coincidences had been deliberately and thoughtfully arranged, and that what had happened was nothing more than an assassination attempt, not a mere accident. After everyone was convinced by Maomao's explanation, a discussion began about summoning everyone involved in these incidents. Maomao, however, had one burning question in her mind. Who really was Jinshi? And why was he so important that such an intricate assassination plot was woven around him? The next day, Officer Lahaku came to visit Maomao and told her that a court lady named Swieri was connected to most of these events. According to his description, she perfectly matched the description of the girl who accompanied the guard and gave him the pipe. Then he surprised her with shocking news. Her body had been found. Lahaku told her that she had taken poison and that doctors had examined her and confirmed her death. He also confirmed that Swieri was the sole perpetrator and that the case was officially closed. Then he excused himself, but Maomao wasn't reassured by this explanation. Swieri committed suicide? Was she really suicidal? She kept thinking and pondering. Everything seemed suspicious. The ending didn't align with the events that had preceded it. Without hesitation, she rushed to Jinshi's office and asked for special permission to speak with the doctor who had examined the body and to inspect Swieri's body before it was cremated. The next day, they went together to the morgue. When the doctor arrived, Maomao began asking him careful questions, then walked over to the wooden box and opened it. To everyone's astonishment, as soon as the contents inside were revealed, everyone's eyes widened in astonishment. The body wasn't Swieri's, but the doctor stood his ground. "I examined Swieri myself." Her heartbeat was off. Maomao looked at him sharply and said, "You were taken advantage of because you didn't perform the necessary autopsy to determine the type of poison because of your feelings for her, and that's exactly what Swieri expected." Jinshi asked in surprise, "What do you mean the body is wrong?" Maomao replied with confident calm, "It would have been strange to burn the empty coffin, so another body was placed inside. That way, all evidence would be lost after the cremation. Jinshi continued, wondering, "But who moved Swieri's body?" Maomao replied, "Nothing was reported. Swieri left on her own. There's a drug that makes a person appear dead for a few minutes. After that, the coffin was replaced, and she disguised herself and left the palace as an ordinary official." Jinshi then asked her again, "But why would they use such a risky plan?" Maomao said in a serious tone, "If she were caught, she would undoubtedly be executed. So, while the plan was risky, it was worth a try. And she did manage to escape. If the body had been cremated as swieri, that would have been her perfect ending. A resounding victory." The next day, Jinshi asked Maomao to return to concubine Guyokyu's palace temporarily to care for her and resume her previous work detecting poisons in food. We then move to Jinshi's office, where Lacan has become accustomed to seeing him and making strange requests. Lacan begins talking about a beautiful blue flower that he often sees at the garden party. Jinshi replies that he will try and asks to obtain it to present to the emperor at the garden party next month. He then leaves the office and Jinshi orders his assistant, Gaoshun, to search for it. Even when Gaoshun tells him that he should ignore Lacan's request because he is busy preparing for the party, Jinshi explains that Lacan always requests strange things that have important implications for events in the palace. Gaoshun visits all the flower vendors and discovers that this flower is out of season and is currently unavailable. Jinshi then asks Maomao for her opinion on the availability of blue flowers. Maomao confirms that it is impossible to obtain these flowers now because they are not in season. Jinshi was frustrated and said he would find a way to refuse the request. But Maomao asked, "Is this the request of a quirky strategist?" When Jinshi replied in the affirmative, Maomao accepted the task and said, "I'm not sure I can accomplish the task, but I will do my best." She made several requests of Jinshi, including refurbishing the steam hut built to treat concubine Riva. Jinshi personally supervised the modifications and asked, "What is the benefit of this modification?" Maomao told him that it would make flowers grow. She explained that by allowing sunlight from above and releasing steam, the flowers would grow faster and bloom, believing it was the right time. As Maomao began bringing the flowers, the wound on her leg opened. Gaoshun brought her friend Shaolan to help her, ordering some servants to do the chores for her. After the flower vases were brought and arranged, the journey to care for her began. But it wasn't easy. Maomao had to stay by her side most of the time and check on her constantly, as some things couldn't be left to someone else. It didn't take long, though, as when she was taken out, the weather turned rainy, and Maomao stayed working late to warm the flowers. After a while, Shaolan called Maomao to show her that the flowers had begun to bloom. Maomao fell asleep, reassured that her efforts were finally paying off. The scene shifts to the day of the ceremony, when preparations begin. The ceremony is generally to welcome the new concubine Ruran, the daughter of Lord Shishu, a senior commander and governor of one of the empire's provinces. During the welcome, Jinshi enters carrying a bouquet of flowers containing a blue flower, which everyone admires, especially its unusual appearance at this time of year, including the emperor himself. After the ceremony, Jinshi meets Maomao at a place where she was resting, holding a blue rose. After thanking her for her great effort, he asks, "How did you do it?" Maomao replies, "I dyed it blue." Jinshi examines the rose and asks, "How come?" "There's no trace of coloring on it." Maomao takes the blue rose and explains that she mixed water with dyes of various colors. The flowers were originally white, and she attached cotton saturated with the color of the flower to the stem so it wouldn't lose its vibrancy during the ceremony. However, she told the emperor this secret because some officials were upset about the flower's appearance. Maomao then asks Gaoshun to bring her the item she asked for. The story then shifts to Lacan, who was born unable to distinguish other people's faces. Everyone seems like a go game to him except for those who interest him. On his way, Lacan meets Maomao, who is accompanied by Jinshi and Gaoshen. After a moment of silence, Maomao invites him to a challenge using Go, a game he is an expert at. He is overjoyed to be closer, even if just a small step, to his daughter. The challenge begins with Maomao's rules, consisting of 5 matches, with whoever wins 3 of them being declared the winner. She tells him that the loser must fulfill the winner's request, regardless of the circumstances, and that whoever withdraws will also be the loser, regardless of the reason. Lacan agrees and asks her to come and live with him if he wins. Maomao asks him to buy one of the brothel girls she used to work at if she wins, because the old lady wants to get rid of an elderly woman. Lacan agreed, but Maomao added a condition to the challenge. She filled 5 glasses with wine and added medicine to 3 of them. She explained that 3 drops of the medicine would turn them into deadly poison, and that the winner would have to choose the glass for the loser to drink once. The contest began, and it became clear to Jenshi that Maomao had no idea how the game was played. She lost the first round and drank the first glass, then lost the second round and drank the second. In the third round, Maomao asked Lacan if she could start, and he agreed. After several steps, Maomao won, knowing that Lacan had been lenient with her. She told him to consider her a winner no matter what she did, even though Lacan lost because he wanted to drink the third glass so the game wouldn't be dangerous for her, since the 2 glasses she had drunk were poisoned. She then chose the glass for Lacan to drink, and he fell to the ground, to the astonishment of Jinshi and Gaochun. A terrified Jinshi then asked her, "Is he okay? Is the poison dangerous?" Maomao tells him that what he drank was medicine, not poison, but that the wine she had prepared was potent. Lacan never drinks alcohol, so he was immediately affected after the first glass. Maomao helps him recover. Jinshi remembers that he always drank juice when he visited him at the office. Lacan then begins to reminisce about himself with Vincent and Maomao, who was the only one who interested him and was most like him, and to whom he had grown more attached. But later, an incident occurred when his intelligent doctor uncle, Maomao's adoptive father, was expelled from the royal palace. His father asked him to go study in a distant country. He sent Vincent a letter stating that he would be away for 6 months to study and would then return for her. However, 3 years passed without any news of him. When he returned, he found a collection of letters from Vincent, the last of which explained that she was not well because of his absence and because of their child. He went to see her, but the old woman expelled him for his absence for so long, telling him that Vincent had left. Lacan was receiving a beating and reproaching himself. Was the reason he hadn't completed the sale before he left because she was pregnant with his daughter? Why hadn't he concluded this simple matter? Lacan woke up in the dingy house where Vinsheen and Maomao lived, and Mai came to him and gave him a wooden box containing a withered flower, sending him a message. Even a withered flower can maintain its shape. Lacan didn't immediately understand what Maomao's message meant by sending a withered flower. Then the old woman entered to tell him that she had prepared a group of girls if he wanted to choose one, but the price was high. Lacan ignored the price and told her that he would simply carry out Maomao's orders. He then went downstairs to see the girls, but he certainly wasn't interested in any of them. However, since Mai had been his closest friend since they were little, he was drawn to her and approached her. Mai told him to choose carefully and opened the door to the annex where Maomao's mother, Vinsheen, was staying. Silence fell over the room, and Lacan heard Vinsheen singing a song he had always heard, but the old woman tried to close the door. Lacan ran quickly toward the sound, associating Maomao's message with the possibility that Vinsheen was still there and alive. He reached the annex and entered the room where his beloved Vinsheen was, whom he still considered the most beautiful woman, even in this state. He told the old lady that if he had to choose a concubine, he would choose this woman, no matter the cost. He began to play their usual game with her, imagining her appearance as before. The events then shifted to Maomao's return to Jinshi's palace, where Seren was caring for her due to her apparent exhaustion. Jinshi then entered and asked, "I thought you hated that strategist?" Maomao told him, "Of course not. He's the reason I'm here. My mother wanted to get pregnant by him of her own free will. Women can easily get rid of pregnancies or even know when the right time is right to avoid getting pregnant." She added, "But I feel like that strategist was the one who was tricked." She asked, "Did Lacan happen to talk to you outside your office?" Jinshi replied, "No, he really didn't." Maomao told him that Lacan couldn't distinguish human faces and that everyone looked the same to him, but for some strange reason he could distinguish my adoptive father's face and mine, so he had this strange attachment to me. But I don't hate him. I just keep my distance, and I'm proud that Lumen is my adoptive father. He told me how intelligent Lacan is. His intuition is never wrong, and even though he's lazy, his plans and analyses always work. He may not become your ally, but make sure he doesn't become your enemy if possible. A few days later, Maomao received a message from Mai, informing her that Lacan had bought Vinsheen and was throwing a party for 7 days straight. Then we moved to Lady Guyokyo's mansion, where Jinshi has summoned Maomao to attend a new case. As usual, he asks her if she's interested, and of course Maomao will be excited about a new adventure. But what will this case be, and what incident will Maomao be involved in? This is what we will know in the coming summary of Season 2.